Mindset. Places, everybody. And action.
Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. As you can see, I have two special guests again this week, Mr. Corbin from Northwest Scent and the very familiar to the channel, Justin from Stay Fresh Productions. How are you doing today, gentlemen?
Pretty solid.
Doing well. Yeah,
Doing
fine Saturday.
So much excitement in everybody's faces. It's craziness. So as per the usual with this format, of course, we were chatting before I pressed record, but you gentlemen have no idea what the topic for the day is, correct?
No idea.
So I like to tailor make my topics for my guests. While last week we did niche versus designer, I feel like based on the collections that I've seen the two of you acquire over time, I feel like talking about fragrance collecting in general would be a good topic because I know both of you tend to gravitate towards purchasing more newer release niche fragrances these days, which can be kind of pricey. And I just wanted to get your thoughts on, the habit and passion and I guess somewhat of obsession that is collecting fragrances.
Absolutely.
Well, Corbin,
Justin,
go ahead. No, you got it, bud.
So I guess, the question, just like, what are you asking? Like, why, like how I got
Why do you
into
do
getting...
it? Why?
what is it about fragrances that make you have the want and need? Like Creed Viking Cologne, you had that shipped from overseas. You were so excited to buy that new release, expensive Creed fragrance. Well, tell me about what motivates you to want to just you'll hear something of a new fragrance coming along, or even something that's been out for years, and you just like, you know what, I gotta have that. I have to add it to my collection.
I think personally, I'm pretty selective with the new purchases I get. I mean, I haven't even been able to try some of the new ones. I did try Le Parfum recently, but I'm not going to buy that. I'm very hit or miss with the new releases. And I think I hear about something, and if it's something that sounds really intriguing to me, and maybe it's from a house that I'm aware of, I'll go ahead and I'll be willing to make that full commitment. I mean, Viking is one of my favorite creeds. It's probably my second favorite right now. So as soon as I knew they were coming out with a new flanker, I was like, I need to have that. I want to be, and part of it was I didn't want to be one of the first people to talk about it. I'm not going to lie, just to kind of, trying to get some exposure, I guess. But I was really looking forward to the release as well. Like, I knew I was going to get it anyway. And actually I found it for a really solid price, because a lot of people don't even know you can get stuff from Europe for a lot cheaper. I think Nose Paris, they had some discount on it, and you could get it for less than discounters here in the US by far. So I didn't have to pay a boatload of money. And I'm very selective. It's just, like I said, releases, and I kind of do gravitate towards niche, I would say, a little bit more at this point. But they're ones that just they sound intriguing to me, and something that's maybe going to be a little bit different, hopefully. Sometimes you get disappointed, like I was with Viking Cologne. So it's very hit or miss. That's part of blind buying, So
I watched both of your videos on that specific bottle, and I like to judge them for myself, but I'm definitely not blind buying that fragrance. I trust both of you. And I didn't like what I heard. It didn't say, Ross, you need to get this.
No.
So I hold Viking in high regard as well. I think that's a fantastic fragrance for as old school as the scent profile can kind of lean. It's got that Old Spice type of vibe going for it, just on a different quality scale completely. Obviously, I think it just wears so well for anything and everything at any time. It's a true signature scent that for what you can get it for from discounters, I think it's a must have from Creed, really and truly, more so than Aventus, to be honest with you. Because Aventus, there's so many ways to smell like Aventus, it's unreal. But with Viking, I find if you want to smell like Viking, you need to get a bottle of Viking. Yeah.
Honestly, yeah, and it's great. Yeah, I was surprised. And I don't know how many people agree with this, but I view Viking as a very fresh fragrance already. The original, I'm very comfortable wearing it in the summer. So I was kind of confused how they're going to try and make that brighter, which, for me, it just ended up being disaster. Not a huge fan of the new release. I think Justin kind of agrees as well, based on his impressions.
Yeah, my first impressions of it, I think more than anything, it was the shock factor that you saw on camera. I was expecting something that smells like Viking, and it just wasn't that. It doesn't smell like Viking. And that's what really hit me the most, was like, that's why I kept saying, what? I'm like, this isn't it. Looking at the bottle, like, this is it? Really? Is this something? This could have been something else.
Especially with what they did with Aventus Cologne, because it's so relative to Aventus.
It is.
It is. They're similar. You can tell they're flankers.
Yeah.
I think Viking Corbin, Cologne, you had said, like, I think you had said it like Aventus Cologne is maybe like 80% Aventus, and Viking Cologne is like 50% Viking or something like that. Because crazy. You do kind of get it in the dry down. I will say this.
Yeah.
I did give it a full wearing the day after I filmed that video. And with that, as I kind of expected, I could better appreciate it. In the air, even though it wasn't really performing very well, I had a hard time picking it up. But when I did smell it, it's nice. I can see a clearer purpose for it in terms of what they may have been going for. It is a more youthful version of Viking. It's going to be more appealing to more people.
That makes sense.
Yes.
But, like the quality is still there. It still reminds me of some things I've smelled, which is just, I can't really break that association. Not everyone's going to have that experience. And I haven't really heard a lot of people talk about it reminding them of something they don't like. That's just me and just my, olfactory history, I guess. I don't know. But all in all, it's nice. I don't think it should be Viking Cologne. They could have slapped another name on it and it would have been a standalone release. I've had some people in the comments on my videos say like, oh, you shouldn't go into it thinking it's going to be like Viking.
Why wouldn't you though?
I'm like,
why,
okay.
Yeah,
I'm
like
okay,
the example I just brought up was Aventus Cologne is so much like Aventus. You would have naturally you're going to think it's going to be something along those lines.
Yeah, because like just think of it more like a standalone release, and I'm like, that's fine.
They should have named it something else then.
Exactly. Why does it have the name? So anyway, I don't have anything against the scent. I do think it's quite pleasant. I will look into maybe getting some myself, or even I want to spend more time with it. I want to get to know it, especially since seeing other people really kind of give very positive feedback about it. And I'm like, I want to see if I can figure out what they're seeing. So, but anyway, to kind of come back to your question, Ross, about collecting, I have an interesting philosophy on collecting. I don't consider myself a collector. I never have. But I think being a collector is a spectrum. I would say I am closer to the collector side of the spectrum nowadays than I was before. But I don't see something as like I need to add that to my collection. That's not really the phrase that I use to frame my acquisitions. When it comes to obviously being a reviewer, having to talk about many fragrances, we're having to bring new and fresh things to the channel on a regular basis because people want new stuff. That's going to naturally come with having to acquire just a lot of stuff. And I can remember, 4 years ago, I had a lot of resistance to that because I was still kind of trapped in this utilitarian mindset around fragrance, where I have my bottle of cologne, I leave it on my bathroom counter.
You need all of that.
Yes, I spray it when I go out. I might spray one under the shirt and I go out and do my thing, and I wear it like 3 times a week. That's kind of how it's no one's fault, but we're all kind of introduced to fragrance in that way, just by the nature of the lack of education behind it. Christophe Laudemille speaks about this all the time. Like, we don't get a chance to actually learn about perfumery and learn how to even wear it, learn how it's created, learn about these brands that are putting it out there. You go to a department store, that's what you get until we get deeper in like we have. So most of us have that mindset of like, I don't need all this because I just have this one. I need to finish that. And once I finish that, I can get another one. And it took me a long time to start to break away from that. I even spent, again, when I took a break from YouTube, like 3 years ago, I sold off my whole collection except for like 12. I had like 80 bottles at the time. I sold everything except for like 12 fragrances because I was kind of going on that mindset. Granted, a lot of what I had blind bought based on hype from the start of my journey. So I kind of purged all of that.
Yeah.
And I don't really do that anymore. But since coming back into reviewing, and since kind of seeing the trend of some of the biggest reviewers, whether or not we like them, there are some things that are in common between them. But the biggest thing in common between them is that they have large collections. Now, I don't feel like I'm trying to get a large collection, but I've been trying to soften around the idea of a growing collection. And I'm not really concerned about getting too much. I'm not really concerned about getting things I may not wear that often, you know, because reference is a big part of it. If we as reviewers can have a large collection to reference,
that's
for
exactly
the viewer,
how I feel about it.
Then that boosts our credibility. And it's as simple as that. So I've been really leaning into that idea. And I still get a lot of blowback from people. Not a lot. Every now and then people will comment like, you know, you still have so much left in that bottle. Are you ever going to go through it? Or how are you going to go through all these fragrances? They're all going to go bad. What are you doing?
Some will,
You know?
yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, are you really concerned? Like you want to come over and we can talk? Like, I don't know. Are you?
No, Justin.
problem.
I just want to bitch at, I just want to bitch at you in your comment section for a minute because I'm bored. That's what it is.
Yeah. You know, and I tell people like, I'm not viewing it in this way that you might be viewing it. It's different. It's the same way we kind of treat our fragrances like we treat clothing. And not a lot of people do that. Again, the pedestrian way of interfacing with fragrance is not as we interface with other things. Like, imagine if you, like, this is my date shirt. I wear my date shirt when I go on dates. And I have this one date shirt. And this is my work shirt. And I wear my work shirt on dates. We don't do that. Maybe some people do, but we don't do that. So when you think about treating fragrance the way we treat our clothing, where it's like, I have 12 shirts I could wear to a date. We could treat the fragrance the same way. The difference being, and I have to acknowledge this, is that clothes don't expire. They don't go bad. So they don't spoil.
They'll just go out of, certain things will just go out of style.
They might, unless you get timeless pieces, you know, like white
Oxfords and things like that. Yeah.
Then otherwise, I think that's kind of a subconscious reason why people might see it as more valid when it comes to clothing. But I think when you present people with that you know, that kind of analogy of like, imagine if you just like, you don't need 15 t-shirts, right? You don't. Why do you have more than one t-shirt? And people are like, oh, well, because I wanted to wear different stuff. It's like, exactly.
That was gonna be my question. You don't only have one pair of clothes?
It's Occam's razor. It's the most simplest answer is the correct one. I like variety.
Yeah.
I like this shirt. So I got it in 2 other colors besides the first one I got. Or I like this style of shirt. So I have 10 of them. Same thing with fragrance. I like variety. Am I going to say, like you were just pointing out, am I going to wear certain fragrances all the time? Are they going to sit there and collect dust sometimes? Sure. But for my passion and what I like to do and the way I like to speak of fragrance, it provides frame of reference, if nothing else. It's an experience, an olfactory experience I had. So when talking about certain fragrances, I can use that as frame of reference to help someone who may be watching understand, because if you haven't smelled the fragrance on topic, maybe you smelled the one that has the similarities or whatever. It provides frame of reference. It's actually very valuable. It's a very valuable asset with what we do. You know?
Yeah, totally.
So I completely agree with everything you had to say. I'm the type that, like I said, I like variety when it comes to clothing. I mean, look, I have just as many hats as I do fragrances, for God's sakes. I like what I like, and whatever I like variety of. You know, it's just what it is. There's a collector aspect to a certain extent for me as well, where not everything that comes out or everything I see I have to have, but if it speaks to me in some form or fashion, at some point, whether it's a week from now or 2 years from now, there's things I've been procrastinating getting for years. Eventually, I'd like to add that to what is my collection. Is it a collector's collection? No, it's just my collection for what speaks to me, what I want to have, what I like to experience. So.
Totally. Yeah.
And
now go ahead, Corbin.
I was just going to say, as far as like, just having like so much variety, and I totally agree with obviously everything you guys are both saying. It's definitely past, Justin, you say it's a lot, utilitarian, you know, we're past that now, you know, and I don't necessarily view myself as like a collector per se either. I'm not the type of person that's like, I need every single fragrance in the Y line. or, I need every single, whatever.
It's funny you bring that up because I
get what I
recently
want.
feel like I need all the fragrances in my line. It's so funny that you use that as an example. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Mind reader.
Yeah.
No, I'm just joking. But yeah, and it's the variety thing. You want to have something, maybe you're feeling this very specific taste on this very specific occasion, and that's what you want. And so you have it, it's totally past functionality. And but I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I mean, enjoy what you want. And it's really it's no one else's business, to tell you otherwise, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's people that have massive retro video game collections, coin collections, still heavy into Pokemon cards. Prime example. That's still a whole new craze all over again these days, like it was in the late 90s, early 2000s when I was a teenager. It's everybody's got their thing. And for us, for the most part, it's fragrances. My secondary thing, which was kind of my thing before fragrances, is, like I said, hats. I can always point to that because there's a row you don't even see on screen above it that's got another 4 rows of hats. So, and then I got more in the closet, and it's not a cool, but at the same time, this goes back to what Justin was saying about clothing. Those don't expire. I have hats that if you tried to find would probably cost you $200 or $300 because they were a limited run and it was from 15 years ago. And if I start sweat, like there's hats I'll sweat in and do whatever outside and play golf, stuff like that. But the majority, if I start to sweat, that hat's coming off my head because I don't want to wash my hat and all this other stuff. And I have more of a collector mentality with hats than I do with fragrances, to be honest with you, because eventually I'm going to run out of that fragrance, especially if it's one I really like and I go back to on a regular basis. Eventually I'll run out of that. Whereas that hat, I'll be that 60-year-old man where I got peers my age saying, grow up, you're 60. Why are you still wearing those hats? And now I got to curse at you and call you all kinds of MFs and all that. So that's in my future one day because it's what I like. I've been collecting it for years. I'll always wear them, but I'll be that guy. You're an old man. Why are you wearing flat bill hats? Well, fuck you. I like flat bill hats. You
never know. Flat bill could be all the rage by that point.
For
the older folks, you never know.
There's a huge community for it. There's a huge community for hats. It's just like there is with fragrances. We're a budding community.
Yeah, I think we're a smaller community than the hat community, I'm sure.
Yes, we are. Yeah. We're a very small niche that is going through a pretty strong growth spurt over the last 2 years. And it seems like it's still continuing to grow rapidly. I mean, just look at, if you just use social media as accounts that have appeared in the last 2 years, whether it be taking lovely photos of fragrances or like we're doing, wanting to talk about fragrances, review them, all these different things. There's so many accounts that have come on the scene since, mine included. My channel's not going to be 2 years old till July 12th. It was something I procrastinated doing for like 2 years because I was camera shy, which few and far between now. I'm far and wide, not camera shy, but it was something I wanted to do before the growth spurt was really happening. Back when channels like Steven was at, 50,000 subscribers was when I originally wanted to do this. Now he's triple that, it's just crazy to see how much this niche is growing, and it's becoming more and more a part of the men's fashion segment because a lot of these men's fashion channels and stuff like that and men's style channels are doing more and more fragrance related content these days. So it's really that's just adding to the allure of people wanting to be more into just having a bottle of Aqua de Gel, or just having that, still wearing they've been wearing Tommy Hilfiger for 30 years now. And that's just what they wear, great fragrance, but there's more out there that once you start to dabble just a little bit, it's easy to, if you have any love for things that smell nice, it's easy to fall in the rabbit hole of going from one bottle to 30 like that in 2 weeks.
Yeah, totally.
You go down the rabbit hole on YouTube, all that stuff. And next thing you know, you've built a collection, which is the basis of the topic we have here today, is collecting. Because whether it's chasing certain fragrances that are hard to get, or it's, whatever, it becomes a collection. Anything past 5, in my opinion, is becoming a collection, whether big or small. And it's fun to see so many people coming into this that are new to this and wanting to learn more and wanting to experience more. You know,
Right.
it's such a fun hobby. It really is. I love this stuff. You know,
You know, I have a question for the both of you.
Sure.
Oh, he's flipping it on us now.
Hey, let's do it.
Do you ever experience concern either internally or from people in your life in regards to your collection, in regards to how much farther is it going to go? How much larger is it going to grow? And, you know, just in regards to just space in terms of like taking up space, or even just the concept of like having all these things that you can't possibly use. Do you ever experience concern, again, even just within yourself or from people in your life? You guys ever deal with that?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Corbin.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think that, maybe not personally, but yeah, there's always the concern. I'm still one of those people that's like, if somebody's over, I'm like, man, I hope they don't see my cabinet. I don't want them to see my cabinet, you know? And so I think there's gonna be a point where, I don't know, it's going to grow so much that it's just not going to be able to keep up. And I think what I'm trying to say is once you get like super past like functionality and everything like that, it just becomes, sorry, I'm having a moment right now.
No, you're good, man.
No problem. No problem.
Take your time.
But yeah, so I think that here, Justin, you just go ahead. All right.
I'll go ahead. So
Yeah, go ahead.
in that aspect, space does become a bit of a concern, especially once you start pushing to where you're on the horizon of quadruple digits. I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. I'm definitely getting there. I haven't counted in a long time, but 500 was months ago. Okay. So just give you, and I've add at least 30 fragrances a month to my collection. So it's one of those things that it's bordering on the obsessive, like I was saying earlier, to where it's an enjoyment. It doesn't hurt us financially. You know, I wouldn't do it if I couldn't do it, type of thing. But space does kind of become a concern as it grows, because right now I have stuff in their boxes that are on the floor in front of the shelf because I need more shelving. So it will become to a point to where I feel like I may have to downsize some, especially if I'm going to continue to constantly bring things in. But then it comes down to, what am I willing to part with? You know, even if it's something I haven't touched in a while, in the back of my mind, I'm like, yeah, but you have that, but you never know. And you start getting in your head about, do I really want to get rid of this? Maybe I should just start wearing it more, and you wear it a couple of days. That's the inevitable for me, you know? And I don't want my collection to ever eclipse into like the 2,000 bottle range. That's just too much. I'll never get there. I won't allow it to get there. I don't even think I'll allow it to get to 1,000. It's one of those things where I'll downsize when I feel the time is right, and trim some fat, if you will. Trim some fat. If I get some return on the investment, great. If not, it is what it is. Can always do giveaways. There's always somebody that would enjoy something, especially something for free. You know, there's always ways to do that, kind of a giving back type of thing. That's going to be inevitable for me, mainly because of space, you know, because it's not something where I get where you're coming from, Corbin, because those that aren't into it don't get it. So they see something like that, and that's, what's wrong with you? Why do you have so many? You don't need all of that. You're not going to use that. And you know they're going to say that, or even if they don't, you're expecting them to say that because they're not into
thinking it.
Yeah, because it's a passion that only like-minded individuals share. Like I said, we're a small niche. You know, there's only so many of us out there that are into it, to where you have more than 5 bottles. You know, because to some people, 5 bottles is a lot.
Yeah.
You know, that's why do you need 5? Walk in my room. Oh my God, that same person, you know, it's true. It's so inevitable for me that, I'll have to downsize at some point for sure.
What are you at right now?
I haven't counted.
If you haven't counted.
Like I said, it's been a few months since I was around 500.
So
now this is including a lot of clones. I got a lot of little small clone houses, Essential Obsessions, Sammy stuff. I have all of Sammy's fragrances, and Sammy's got like 30 of them now. 3-in-1 Parfums used to send me some stuff. It's a lot of that stuff too. I'd say I'm in the 100 bottle range just on stuff like that,
Mhm.
you know, alone, maybe even a little bit more. But if I had to guess, just throw a number out there, I would say at least around 700.
Yeah.
At least in that realm, you know, and that's crazy. For some people, that's completely absurd, you know,
Sure.
and I understand that. And is it a problem? Maybe a little bit, but I love what I do. And fragrances is a large part of my life, very large part of my life. And I have damn near endless content. That's why I'm always able to bring so much content, is I have so much I can talk about.
Exactly.
You know? That's one of the beauties of it is I put it to use, you know?
Yeah. You know, I think with a lot of people who don't get it, as you said, it immediately it kind of makes more sense to them when space is not an issue. I think space is the biggest factor here. If you happen to live in a house, let's just fantasize for a second. You have a home where you have a room that is more than big enough for your entire collection and more, and whatever else you're going to get. And people walk into that room and you have it nicely organized and whatnot. It's not really like a shocking, like, oh, like, what are you doing kind of thing anymore. It's almost like, wow.
It provides a level of intrigue for sure, especially when it's nicely organized and everything.
There's Joe sent me. He kind of has that vibe. He has a setup. He has a beautiful
he does.
Dedicated. And this, I mean, I don't even know how many he has.
Oh, he dwarfs my collection.
Yeah. I mean, he's got maybe
dwarfs it.
Maybe 2,000. I don't know. He has a lot, but they're just so, I mean, the whole room, there's closets in the room just dedicated. And you walk into that and it's just like, it makes sense. It's like, okay, this is your fragrance room. Instead of us trying to pack in all these fragrances within our already lived in space and try to make it look nice and make sense. I mean, so imagine if space was not the issue. Does that change things for you? Does that concern kind of melt away?
Space actually isn't an issue now. I have plenty of room in here. This is not a small room, this spare bedroom. This is in this apartment. This is what this room is for me to shoot content, for me to have all my hobby stuff. I got multiple TVs in here. All my hats are set up. My gaming systems aren't all set up, but when I feel like playing one, I got Xbox One's right here. My GameCube's by my foot. When I want to hook that back up, I throw it right back on the desk. But I just haven't gone and like, I'd have to move that somewhere and put a shelf right there. Like I have room to work with. I just don't want to make the entire room about fragrances, you know, because the room isn't just a fragrance room for me, you know, so it's not a space issue with me. It's just I don't want it to get to that point. You know, I feel like, believe it or not, for as much as I have and as much as I continue to buy and get and all that, there is a limit where I think it's too much, even for me, you know. And I think I'm getting in the neighborhood. I'm probably within 100 bottles of me saying, okay, time to trim it down a little bit. You know.
And I don't know what. Go sorry, Justin. I don't know what my max is. I don't think I've really set a number in my mind on like, okay, that's too much. I just know that currently actually I'm running out of room because I do have a cabinet right there. And it is pretty much maxed out. I've had to actually I ended up taking out like my cheaper fragrances, and I have a bin for those now. Those are somewhere else. So as far as like trying to grow the collection and stuff, as far as like the apartment we're in, we're pretty maxed out. There's not a whole lot of room here. So, you know.
Are you guys are both keeping boxes, I assume, as well, right?
I used to not.
Definitely.
I used to toss the boxes, but as it got past 50, 60, 70 bottles, it's like, okay, I need to start keeping boxes because a lot of these are going to sit here. And it's best to keep them out the light, you know?
And
I don't know about you.
And if they are going to sell, they sell better with boxes.
They do.
They do.
They do.
And well, I don't know about you. I do keep the boxes, but for me, it's anything. I don't have a certain price, but if it's just like a cheaper fragrance with a really thin cardboard box, maybe I'll toss it. Something like Zaharoff, of course, you know, the amazing presentation. You're not tossing that. Although I've heard of people doing that. So that's crazy, but not me.
Part of that price point is that presentation you're paying for.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So how about you, Justin? What's the number you're approaching at this point? I'm curious.
I'm not sure. Honestly, it's
200, 300 range.
I haven't counted in a while. It's definitely over 300.
There we go. I had a feeling.
Yeah, definitely over 300. But again, with all the clones and things, I don't even know. I mean, I got them pretty well situated at the moment, but I'm pretty maxed out on space. I got, 2 dedicated. I got 1 bookshelf and I got 1 cabinet, both dedicated. And they're pretty much the bookshelf. I can maybe squeeze some stuff, but everything else is maxed out. In fact, I have like 11 fragrances sitting up here on the counter because they're not going to fit. They're just not going to fit in there. And there's more coming, and it's like, I got to do something. So I've kept all my boxes. I keep them in a storage bin that I leave, and I have this little storage closet outside, and I just kind of fill those up. But I have been toying with the idea of trimming a little bit. I've kind of started to make a short list of fragrances that I would part with. And as you said, Ross, it's not an easy thing to do. I feel like it was a lot easier several years ago. It was just a no-brainer. It's like, oh, I'm not wearing it. Bye. But now it's like, but that could be a video where you could compare.
And look, I'm right there with you, because there's a specific shelf I'm thinking of right now that's got some Burberry fragrances that I just don't touch, Burberry Brit and stuff like that. And I guarantee you, if after this video, I'm like, you know what? Now that we're talking about it, I'm a trim set, and I'm going to go up to that shelf and I'm going to spray the damn thing and smell it, and it's going to go right the hell back on that shelf. It's just, and look, it's stuff I'd never talk about on the channel. It's stuff I haven't done reviews on. And that's right there is what it's going to be. Well, I know it's been reviewed to death and it's not a new fragrance, but I never did my take on it. That's what's going to go on in my head. And that's what'll keep it on that shelf. It's a sickness.
It is. I mean, the way I see it, this was my philosophy I had years ago. And honestly, I feel like it worked. If I was going to get rid of a fragrance, I would first try to make sure that it's readily available. Like, okay, if I were to get rid of this, can I get it again?
Yeah, I know you've rebought a lot of stuff.
Yeah. So I would get rid of it. And if I miss it, then I'll get it back. If I don't, and I forget all about it, I guess I didn't need it.
That's a good way to look at that.
Yeah. So that's just, it's simple as that. I mean, if I'm not talking about it, if I haven't talked about it in a year on the channel, I don't think I'm seeing a lot of relevance in it. And if I'm not even thinking about wearing it, it might as well not even be here, because I probably wouldn't miss it if it wasn't here. So again, I'm compiling a list, but a lot of the fragrances on this list are ones that are replaced by superior fragrances in my collection that might have some kind of similarity. Like for instance, Cartier L'Envol, which I love, is very similar to Bulgari Man, the original. They're very similar, but Bulgari Man is just a shadow of L'Envol. So that is one. In fact, that when I say I've been compiling a list, honestly, that is the only fragrance on the list right now, is Bulgari Man, and it's been that way for months. It's just, I have that list on my phone. It's like fragrances to get rid of, Bulgari Man, and that's it.
You should throw that in the garbage as soon as we get off the Zoom. If it's the only one there, it needs to go.
I need to sell it. At first it was nice, but I got L'Envol. It's like, oh, I don't need this at all.
Better version.
It's so light, it's wispy, it lasts 2-3 hours. So I'm like, no, I can't even recommend it. So I need to kind of look at my collection more critically in that way and say, like, would I really recommend this? As much as I'd like to talk about it and hear myself speak about it, would I recommend this over something else? If no, then I'm not doing anybody any favors by keeping it in my collection.
That's some damn good logic.
Yeah,
that is some damn good logic. Well, fellas, I appreciate you guys being on here. We're almost to the time limit. Apparently Zoom's put me on a time limit and wants me to pay to upgrade to Pro.
Oh, less than a minute. Yeah, I see that.
Yeah.
Has it been an hour?
Well, I think it's a 40-minute limit.
Yeah, 40.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So we got a minute 11 left. So they got the timer for you guys too?
No, it just says less.
I don't see a timer. I just see the less than a minute.
That's funny, because I got a timer and it says upgrade to Pro.
Yeah.
Nice.
But I think that's a pretty good stopping point. This is the first time that we stayed on topic pretty much the entire time. That's true. Maybe 1 minute we weren't on topic. So that just goes to show how interesting of a topic and how much depth is involved in the idea of what's too much and what's not enough and why. when it comes to
Mhm.
fragrance collecting.
Exactly.
And I definitely appreciate both of you gentlemen taking time out of your Saturday to be on here. I will have
you.
both channels linked below for Corbin and for Justin. For those of you that aren't subscribed, make sure to check them out. Of course, there's some wonderful content from both of them. Let's show Corbin some love. Great guy with a great channel, up and coming and budding fragrance review channel. And until next time, guys, y'all keep it light, keep smelling good. Y'all have a great weekend.
Later.